Final Fantasy VII is a role-playing game developed and published by Squaresoft, now known as Square Enix. Development of Final Fantasy VII began in 1994. It was originally developed for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, but later moved to the Nintendo 64. Since the Nintendo 64's cartridges lacked required storage capacity for substantial pre-rendered movie footage, Square then moved the game to CD-ROM-based PlayStation. Helped by a large pre-release promotional campaign, Final Fantasy VII was a critical and commercial success. The game is acknowledged for having boosted the sales of PlayStation consoles and popularizing Japanese role-playing games outside of Japan. It is widely considered to be one of the greatest games of all time. At E3 in 2015, Square Enix announced a high-definition remake of the game. But what is it exactly that made this game so great? In this video, we'll briefly discuss why. As with previous installments of the Final Fantasy series, Final Fantasy VII consists primarily of three major areas: an overworld map, field maps, and battle screen. The overworld map is a 3D model, featuring a scaled-down version of the game's fictional world. I was 16 years old when this game came out, so for me it was fairly mind-blowing to see the animated graphics in this game. My previous experience was with Super Nintendo role-playing games such as Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, Final Fantasy III, those kind of games, so this was quite a leap in technology for a lot of people. One of the most amazing things about this game is the development process. I touched upon that at the opening, but to speak more in depth on that, Final Fantasy VII began in 1994 after the release of Final Fantasy VI, and at that time, the game was intended to be another 2D project for the Super Nintendo. They originally planned the story to take place in New York in the year 1999, and as such, the original script of Final Fantasy VII was completely different from the finished product. Back when this game was being developed, many of the development staff were working in parallel on Chrono Trigger, and development on Final Fantasy VII was interrupted when Chrono Trigger was being released. Some of the ideas originally considered for Final Fantasy VII ultimately ended up in Chrono Trigger instead. Other ideas, such as the New York setting and Sorceress characters, later ended up in projects like Parasite Eve and Final Fantasy VIII. Now for this review, I did a little playthrough here. As you can see, the beginning of this game really draws you right into the storyline without overwhelming you with telling you exactly what's going on. Gives you little snippets of information here and there and really makes you interested into who is the Shinra Corporation, why are they bad, who am I as the main character. A lot of things that seem forced upon people in many games now. Final Fantasy does it the right way, where it just, here's a little bit of information, makes you wonder, makes you want to find out more and play more. It's something that I wish more games did. You play as Cloud Strife, working as a mercenary for hire, helping the eco-terrorist group Avalanche in a raid against the Mako reactors surrounding the city of Midgar. Here in my playthrough is just the beginning of the game. You can see talking to the characters and getting familiar with the control system. Up ahead, eventually I make it to the reactor, and with the help of my team, we blow it up. One of my main points of contention in games is forcing a storyline down your throat at the beginning of a game, even a role-playing game. I want to play the game. I don't want you to tell me, here's this long story, 10 minutes long, okay, this is what's going on, this is why you should care. No, I want to play the game and find out why I should care. After I've invested some time into playing it, and I do want to learn more, then give me a little bit more. And Final Fantasy VII does that perfectly. I really enjoyed the combat system in this game more than a lot of other Final Fantasy games. The use of limit breaks, the materia system, the strategy that goes in behind what you combine with what weapons, what you combine with what armor. It was a seemingly endless amount of organization that you could do and customize your character, but it wasn't overly complicated. It was really simplified. The game spanned 3 discs with a minimal playtime of between 20 to 30 hours to finish the basic core game, but upwards of 45 hours to 100 hours to complete all side quests. At no point during any of my playthroughs to this game did it ever feel like it was tedious or working. It was an enjoyable experience all the way through, all the way to the point of maxing out the levels of all my characters and then heading underwater to fight Emerald Weapon and still having that pose a challenge even at the level that we were at. And even up to the point of defeating him, it was a worthwhile journey, and it really was a gratifying feeling of finally defeating him, feeling like, hey, I accomplished something not a lot of people can do. Now, granted, the weapon that you get after beating him, your levels are already up, you can already beat the game, it's kind of pointless, but it's still a fun challenge to face and to work to get to. If you can't already tell by my review, this game is a clear 10 out of 10. And to this date, it's still the best Final Fantasy that exists. If you somehow have not played it yet, please go ahead and do so immediately. You will not regret it. It's kind of funny, all these other games coming out these days when there are games that already exist that people skip right over just because they're not new. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please go ahead and click subscribe. I'm going to be making a lot more of these kind of videos, and please let me know in the comments section if you have any requests. I'm going to step away now and just allow you to listen to the best music that ever graced the PlayStation console.